When billionaire Vincent Capulet walked into his baby's nursery that night, what he discovered would shatter every rule he'd built his empire on. A stranger holding his dying son, her blouse undone, the silence that followed would either destroy her life or save his child's. Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to Unbroken Truths, where we share stories that remind us what truly matters in this world. Before we dive into this powerful journey, I want to know, where are you watching from today? Drop your country or city in the comments below. And if you haven't already subscribed to this channel, please hit that button now. We're building a community of hearts that believe in hope, redemption, and the power of love. Trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next in this story. Now, let's begin. The cry pierced through the mansion walls like a blade cutting through silk, sharp, desperate, fading. Inside the marble palace that overlooked the Manhattan skyline, 2-month-old baby Ethan Capulet screamed himself hoarse. His small face burned crimson with fever. His lips cracked and searched, his tiny fists clenched and unclenched, reaching for comfort that never came. 4 hours. That's how long he'd been crying, and no one had come. The hired nanny, Morgan Bennett, had slipped out hours ago, claiming she needed emergency formula from the pharmacy. But her Instagram story told a different truth. Martinis at a rooftop bar in Soho, designer bags spread across a boutique counter, laughter with friends who knew nothing about the dying child she'd abandoned. Downstairs, on her hands and knees with a scrub brush that had long since stopped cleaning, was Elena Rothman, 24 years old, dark eyes that carried an ocean of grief, hands that still remembered the weight of a baby she'd never hold again. 6 weeks ago, Elena had buried her newborn son. 6 weeks since she'd felt those tiny fingers grip hers. 6 weeks since her world collapsed into a darkness so thick she could barely breathe through it. Now, as baby Ethan's cries grew weaker and more desperate, something inside Elena cracked open. She pressed her palms against her ears, squeezing her eyes shut. Please stop. Please stop. Please, God, make it stop. But the crying didn't stop. It grew thinner, breathier. The sound of a child losing the strength to fight. Elena's hands trembled as she dropped the brush. Her heart hammered against her ribs. Every maternal instinct she'd tried to bury screamed at her to move, to run, to do something. She bolted up the stairs, her uniform still damp from scrubbing floors, her breath coming in ragged gasps. Please let him be okay. Please, God, not another one. She shoved open the nursery door and froze. Baby Ethan lay in his crib, his small chest heaving with shallow, irregular breaths. His skin wasn't just flushed, it was burning. His eyes half closed, glassy with fever. His mouth opened and closed weakly, searching for milk that wasn't there. On the changing table beside him sat a bottle curdled, spoiled, reeking of sour formula that had been sitting out for hours. No, 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 no. Elena's voice broke as she rushed forward, scooping the baby into her arms. He was so light. Too light. His little body was limp and hot against her chest. Ethan, baby, stay with me. Tears blurred her vision as she cradled him close, her hands instinctively checking his pulse, his breathing, his temperature. He was slipping away. The bottle was poisonous. There was no fresh formula, no clean water, nothing. And then Elena felt the familiar, painful pressure in her chest, the heaviness that had haunted her for 6 weeks. Her body is still producing milk for a baby who would never drink it again. Her breath caught in her throat. No, I can't. I shouldn't. But Ethan's lips moved weakly against her collarbone, searching. Instinct. Survival. Elena's hands shook as she looked down at the dying child in her arms. The same weight as her son, the same helpless need, the same fragile trust. I'm so sorry, she whispered, tears streaming down her face. I can't lose another baby. Not tonight. Not ever. She sank into the rocking chair by the window, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might burst. With trembling fingers, she unbuttoned her uniform just enough. Ethan latched on immediately. The room fell silent. No more cries, no more gasping, just the soft, steady rhythm of a baby finally being fed, finally safe. Elena closed her eyes, rocking gently, her whole body shaking with sobs she'd held back for weeks. You're okay now. You're going to be okay. For the first time since her son died, her arms didn't feel empty. For the first time in weeks, she felt like she had a purpose. But she didn't hear the footsteps in the hallway. She didn't hear the door creak open. She didn't see Vincent Capulet standing frozen in the doorway, his eyes wide with shock, his mouth open but no words coming out. All she felt was the baby's grip tighten on her blouse, the warmth of his small body, the peace in his breathing. And then, "What the hell are you doing?" Vincent's voice shattered the silence like glass breaking on marble. Elena's head snapped up, her eyes locking with his. Her face went pale. Her arms instinctively tightened around Ethan, as if someone might rip him away. "Sir, I can explain." But Vincent wasn't listening. His gaze moved from her face to the baby in her arms, to her open blouse, to the intimacy of the moment he'd just walked into. His jaw clenched, his hands curled into fists. "Get away from my son." Elena's heart stopped. The air between them crackled with tension, confusion, and something neither of them could name yet. Outside, thunder rumbled in the distance. Rain began to fall against the windows, and in that moment, both of them knew nothing would ever be the same again. Before we continue, tell me in the comments, would you have done what Elena did? Have you ever had to make an impossible choice to save someone? Let's talk about it. And don't forget to subscribe if you want to see how this unfolds. The rain outside Vincent Capulet's mansion grew heavier, each drop hitting the windows like accusations. Inside the nursery, the silence between him and Elena stretched so tight it felt ready to snap. Elena sat frozen in the rocking chair, baby Ethan still nestled against her chest, sleeping peacefully for the first time in hours. Her blouse was hastily pulled together now, her dark eyes wide with fear and defiance mixed together. Vincent stood in the doorway, his tall frame rigid, his designer suit wrinkled from a 16-hour workday. His face, handsome but haunted, showed the exhaustion of a man who hadn't truly slept since his wife died giving birth 2 months ago. "I asked you a question," Vincent said, his voice lower now but no less dangerous. "What were you doing with my son?" Elena's throat tightened. Her arms instinctively held Ethan closer. "He was dying, Mr. Capulet. That's not an answer. He was dying." Elena's voice cracked, louder than she intended. Ethan stirred slightly but didn't wake. She lowered her voice to a fierce whisper. "The formula was spoiled. He's been crying for hours, his fever." Her voice broke. "I couldn't just let him die." Vincent's expression flickered. Something in her words hit him, but pride kept his walls up. "Where's Morgan?" "I don't know. She left hours ago. Said she was getting formulas." Vincent pulled out his phone, his jaw clenching as he scrolled through Morgan's social media. His face darkened with each image of champagne glasses, shopping bags, selfies with hashtags about living my best life. He closed his eyes, inhaling sharply through his nose. "Sir," Elena said softly, her voice trembling, "I know how this looks. I know I crossed a line. But your son needed help, and I was the only one here." Vincent's eyes snapped open, landing on her with an intensity that made her breath catch. "You're the maid." "I'm Elena," she said quietly, lifting her chin despite her fear. "And before I was a maid, I was a mother." The words hung in the air like a confession. Vincent's expression shifted, something softened behind his eyes before he locked it away again. "Was." Elena's face crumpled for just a moment before she composed herself. "My son, he was 6 weeks old when he died. Sudden infant death syndrome." Her voice was barely a whisper. "I've been trying to move on, trying to forget. But tonight, when I heard Ethan crying," tears spilled down her cheeks. "I couldn't lose another baby. I just couldn't." Vincent stood silent, his fists slowly unclenching. He looked at his son peacefully, breathing steadily, color returning to his cheeks, then back at Elena. For the first time, he truly saw her. Not the maid who cleaned his floors, not the stranger who crossed a boundary, but a grieving mother who sacrificed her own dignity to save a dying child. "How long have you been working here?" he asked, his voice quieter now. 3 weeks. "And in those 3 weeks, have you ever gone into my son's room before tonight?" "No, sir, never." Elena's eyes met him steadily. "I respect boundaries, but tonight there was no boundary more important than his life." Vincent walked slowly into the room, his gaze never leaving her face. He stopped a few feet away, his hands in his pockets. "My wife's name was Claire," he said suddenly. "Claire McGuire. We met in college. She wanted to be a teacher. She loved children more than anything." Elena listened, confused about where this was going. "When she got pregnant, she glowed," Vincent continued, his voice thick with emotion. "Every day she'd talk to our baby, sing to him, Promise him the world. His jaw tightened. The delivery was complicated. She hemorrhaged. They couldn't stop the bleeding. I'm so sorry, Elena whispered. She made me promise in those last moments that I'd love our son enough for both of us, that I'd never let him feel alone. Vincent's voice cracked. And tonight, I was locked in my office while he screamed. I was so buried in work, trying to forget the pain that I almost lost him too. Elena's heart ached at the raw grief in his voice. Vincent's eyes glistened with unshed tears. You saved him when I failed him. And instead of thanking you, I threatened you. You didn't know. I should have known. Vincent's voice rose with self-directed anger. I should have been here. I should have checked on him. I should have. He stopped, turning away, his shoulders tense. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Elena stood slowly, carefully transferring Ethan to his father's arms. Vincent took him instinctively, his large hands gentle despite their trembling. He's beautiful, Elena said softly, and he loves you. I can see it in how he settles when he hears your voice. Vincent looked down at his son, a tear finally escaping down his cheek. I don't know how to do this without her. You don't have to do it alone, Elena said. Then, realizing how that sounded, she quickly added, I mean, he needs you. That's all that matters. Vincent lifted his gaze to meet hers. For the first time, something passed between them, understanding, shared grief, and the beginning of something neither could name yet. Thank you, Elena, he said quietly, for saving my son's life. Elena nodded, wiping her own tears. He's worth saving. As she turned to leave, Vincent called out, Elena? She paused at the door. Don't go, please. Stay until he wakes up. I don't want him to wake up alone or scared. Elena hesitated, then nodded. Of course. She returned to the rocking chair while Vincent sat on the ottoman nearby, both of them watching Ethan sleep. The rain continued outside, but inside the nursery, something had shifted. Two broken people, one tiny life, and the fragile beginning of healing. But neither of them knew that outside the door, Morgan Bennett had returned and she heard everything. Her face twisted with jealousy and rage as she pulled out her phone, already typing messages to people who would pay good money for a scandal involving Vincent Capulet. The storm outside was nothing compared to the one about to hit. Morning light crept through the curtains of the Capulet mansion like an unwelcome guest. Elena woke with a start, realizing she'd fallen asleep in the nursery's rocking chair. Her neck ached, her uniform wrinkled, but baby Ethan was sleeping peacefully in his crib. Vincent was gone. She stood quietly, smoothing her clothes, and bent over the crib one last time. Ethan's small chest rose and fell steadily. His fever had broken completely. She whispered a soft prayer of thanks and slipped out of the room. In the hallway, she nearly collided with Morgan. The nanny stood with her arms crossed, her blonde hair perfectly styled despite her late night out, her lips curved in a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Well, well, Morgan said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. Looks like someone had a sleepover. Elena's stomach tightened. Ethan was sick. I was helping. Helping? Morgan's laugh was sharp. Is that what you're calling it? She stepped closer, her voice dropping to a venomous whisper. I know what you did, Elena, and so will everyone else. What are you talking about? You think Vincent will protect you? Morgan's eyes gleamed with malice. You're a maid who took advantage of a grieving widower and his helpless baby. By this afternoon, everyone will know what kind of desperate woman you really are. Elena's face went pale. I saved that child's life while you were out partying. Prove it, Morgan hissed. Your word against mine. And guess who has the reputation, the connections, and the lawyer on speed dial? She tilted her head mockingly. Enjoy your last day here, Elena. You're done. Before Elena could respond, Morgan strutted away, her heels clicking against the marble floor like a countdown. Elena stood frozen, her heart pounding. She wanted to run to Vincent, to explain, to defend herself, but would he even believe her? Last night he was grateful, but in the harsh light of day with his reputation on the line, would he choose her over his image? Downstairs, Vincent sat in his office, staring at his computer screen without really seeing it. His mind kept replaying the previous night, Elena's tears, her trembling hands, the way she held Ethan like he was her own. His assistant, James, knocked and entered without waiting. Sir, we have a problem. Vincent looked up, exhausted. What now? James handed him a tablet showing a gossip website. The headline made Vincent's blood run cold. Billionaire's baby in care of unstable maid. Sources say woman lost her own child weeks ago, may be replacing him. Beneath it was a blurry photo taken through the nursery window of Elena holding Ethan, her blouse partially open. Vincent's hands clenched into fists. Who leaked this? Anonymous source. But sir, James hesitated. The board is already calling. Investors are concerned about your judgment. They're saying, I don't care what they're saying. Vincent stood abruptly. That woman saved my son's life. I believe you, James said carefully. But they won't. Not without proof. And sir, with all due respect, you barely know her. What if? What if what? Vincent's voice was dangerously quiet, James swallowed. What if she's not mentally stable? What if she's projecting her grief onto Ethan? The board wants her gone. Today. Vincent's jaw worked as he struggled between protecting Elena and protecting his empire. The pressure felt like it was crushing him from all sides. Upstairs, Elena was packing her few belongings when she heard raised voices in the hallway. She cracked open her door and saw Vincent's sister, Olivia Connor, a sharp-featured woman in her 40s, standing with Morgan. This is unacceptable, Vincent. Olivia's voice echoed through the house. A stranger nursing your baby? Have you lost your mind? Vincent's voice was low but firm. She saved Ethan's life. Or she endangered it, Olivia shot back. Do you know what people are saying? That you're so grief-stricken you can't make rational decisions. That you're going to lose custody. Lose custody? To whom? To me, Olivia said coldly. I've already spoken to my lawyer. If you can't provide a stable environment, the courts will give me guardianship. Is that what Claire would have wanted? The mention of his dead wife made Vincent flinch. Elena's heart sank as she listened. She couldn't let Vincent lose his son because of her. She couldn't be the reason another family was torn apart. She finished packing, wrote a quick note, and slipped down the servant's staircase. But before she could reach the back door, she heard Ethan's cry. It was different from last night. Not desperate or pained, but confused searching. Elena's feet stopped moving. Her hand on the doorknob trembled. Walk away, her mind screamed. Save yourself. But Ethan's cry grew louder, more distressed. And Elena couldn't do it. She couldn't abandon him. She turned around and ran back up the stairs, bursting into the nursery. Ethan was in his crib, his face red, his little hands reaching up. The moment he saw Elena, his cries softened to whimpers. She lifted him into her arms, and he immediately calmed, nuzzling against her shoulder. I'm sorry, baby, she whispered, tears streaming down her face. I have to go. I'm making everything worse. Are you? Elena spun around to find Vincent standing in the doorway. His eyes were red-rimmed, his tie loosened, his expression unreadable. Sir, I was just... Running away? Vincent stepped into the room, closing the door behind him. I don't blame you. My family is trying to destroy you. The media is tearing you apart, and He ran a hand through his dark hair. I don't know how to fix this. You can't, Elena said quietly. Your sister is right. I'm making everything worse. It's better if I just disappear. Better for whom? Vincent's voice rose. Not for Ethan. Look at him, Elena. Look how peaceful he is with you. Elena glanced down at the baby, who had drifted back to sleep in her arms, his tiny hand clutching her uniform. And not for me, Vincent added softly. Elena's breath caught. Mr. Capulet. Vincent, he corrected. After last night, I think we're past formalities. Their eyes met across the room. The air between them crackled with something electric, dangerous, and undeniable. I can't afford to care about you, Elena whispered, and you can't afford to care about me. Too late, Vincent said, taking a step closer. I already do. Before Elena could respond, the door burst open. Olivia stood there with two police officers, her face triumphant. That's her, Olivia said, pointing at Elena, the woman who assaulted my nephew. Elena's face went white. What? No. Officers, I want her arrested for child endangerment and trespassing. Vincent stepped between Elena and the police. You're not touching her. Vincent, move, Olivia commanded. No. His voice was steel. Elena Rothman saved my son's life, and until I have proof otherwise, she's under my protection. Then you're a bigger fool than I thought, Olivia hissed. One of the officers cleared his throat. Sir, we have to investigate the complaint. Then investigate, Vincent said coldly. But you're not taking her anywhere without evidence. The standoff lasted several heartbeats. Finally, the officer nodded. We'll need statements from everyone. Don't leave town, miss. As they left, Elena sank into the rocking chair, still holding Ethan, her whole body shaking. Vincent knelt in front of her, his hands gently covering hers. "I won't let them hurt you." "Why?" Elena's voice broke. "Why are you risking everything for me?" Vincent looked at her for a long moment, his green eyes searching hers. "Because for the first time since Claire died, I don't feel alone." Outside, storm clouds gathered again, and neither of them knew that Morgan had already sold her story to 3 more tabloids, each one more damaging than the last. The battle for truth was just beginning. Drop a comment if you think Vincent is making the right choice or if he's about to lose everything. And hit that subscribe button because everything is about to explode. The mansion became a war zone. Over the next week, the media circus outside Vincent Capulet's gates grew from a handful of photographers to a full-blown siege. News vans lined the street, helicopters circled overhead. Every tabloid in New York ran some version of the same story. Billionaire's baby bonded to unstable maid. Vincent Capulet's judgment questioned after wife's death. Is Elena Rothman a hero or a danger? Inside, Elena tried to make herself invisible. She stayed in her room except when Ethan needed her, and he needed her constantly. The baby refused bottles from Morgan, turned his face away from the other staff, and only calmed when Elena held him. Vincent's board of directors called an emergency meeting. "This is a PR nightmare," said Robert Shaw, the silver-haired chairman. "Investors are pulling out, stock prices are dropping, your judgment is being questioned on every financial news channel." Vincent sat at the head of the conference table, his jaw tight. "My son is healthy and happy. That's my priority." "Your priority should be this company," Robert shot back. "The company your father built, the one that employs 12,000 people. You're risking it all for, what? A maid?" "A woman who saved my son's life," Vincent corrected coldly. "A woman you barely know," another board member chimed in. "Vincent, we're not heartless, but you need to think strategically. Distance yourself from her. Issue a statement, move on." "No." The room fell silent. "No?" Robert's eyebrows shot up. "You're willing to lose everything?" Vincent stood, his hands flat on the table. "I already lost everything when Claire died, and I almost lost my son because I was too busy trying to save face and build empires to notice he was dying. So forgive me if I don't give a damn about stock prices right now." He walked out, leaving the board members in stunned silence. But the pressure didn't stop. Olivia hired a private investigator to dig into Elena's past. Within days, she had a file full of information, most of it tragic, all of it twisted to look suspicious. Her son died mysteriously. Olivia announced at a family dinner, dropping the file on the table in front of Vincent. The autopsy was inconclusive. SIDS, they said, but what if it wasn't? Vincent's blood ran cold. "What are you implying?" "I'm not implying anything," Olivia said smoothly. "I'm stating facts. Her baby died. She shows up at your house weeks later. Now she's attached to Ethan like a leech. It's not normal, Vincent." "Grief isn't normal," Vincent said through gritted teeth. "Losing a child isn't normal. That doesn't make her dangerous." "Doesn't it?" Olivia leaned forward. "What do you really know about her? Where did she come from? Why did she need this job so desperately? What if she's planning something?" "Like what?" "Like taking your son." The words hung in the air like poison. Vincent wanted to dismiss it, wanted to throw Olivia out. But a tiny seed of doubt had been planted, and he hated himself for it. Upstairs, Elena sat in the nursery, rocking Ethan to sleep. She softly sang a lullaby her own mother used to sing. Ethan's eyes drooped, his breathing evening out. "You're so loved, little one," she whispered. "Even if your family thinks I'm a monster, even if they push me away, you'll always be loved." The door opened quietly. Vincent stepped in, his face drawn with exhaustion. "How is he?" Vincent asked softly. "Sleeping," Elena said. "Finally." Vincent walked closer, his hands in his pockets. "Elena, I need to ask you something." Her heart sank at his tone. "Okay. Your son, how did he... What happened?" Elena's face went pale. Her arms tightened slightly around Ethan. "Why are you asking me this?" "Because my sister is asking questions I can't answer. Because the media is digging into your past. Because..." He stopped, running a hand through his hair. "Because I need to know." "You need to know if I killed my baby?" Elena's voice was barely a whisper, but it cut like a knife. "No, I just... Because that's what everyone thinks, isn't it?" Tears spilled down Elena's cheeks. that I did something wrong, that I was careless, that it's my fault. Elena, I woke up that morning and he was just gone. Her voice broke completely. He was fine the night before, healthy, perfect. I put him to sleep in his crib, and when I woke up, he wasn't breathing. The doctors said it was SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome. No cause, no warning, no reason. She looked up at Vincent, her eyes blazing with pain. So yes, I blame myself every single day. Yes, I question every decision I made that night. And yes, when I heard Ethan crying, every part of me that failed my son woke up and screamed at me not to fail again. Vincent's throat tightened. I'm sorry. Are you? Elena stood, carefully placing Ethan in his crib. Or are you just like everyone else, wondering if the broken woman should be trusted around your precious son? That's not fair. Fair? Elena's voice rose, then dropped to a fierce whisper to avoid waking Ethan. Nothing about this is fair, Vincent. I saved your son's life, and now I'm being investigated like a criminal. I held him when no one else would, and now I'm the dangerous one. I gave him everything I had left to give, and you're standing here asking me if I killed my baby. I had to ask. Then ask Morgan. Elena shot back. Ask the nanny who left him to die while she shopped for designer bags. Ask your family who only care about your image. But don't ask me, because I've already paid more than anyone should ever have to pay. She brushed past him, heading for the door. Vincent caught her arm gently. Elena, wait. Let go of me. Please. His voice cracked. I'm sorry. You're right. I'm scared, and I'm exhausted, and I don't know who to trust anymore, but... He turned her to face him. I trust you. My head is full of doubt, but my heart knows. You're not a danger to my son. You're the only reason he's alive. Elena's tears fell harder. Then why does it feel like I'm the villain? Because people don't know how to handle real love when they see it, Vincent said softly. They don't understand sacrifice. They see a grieving mother and a motherless child and think it's wrong instead of beautiful. Their eyes met. The space between them charged with emotion neither had permission to feel. Vincent's hand was still on her arm. His thumb brushed against her skin unconsciously. This is a mistake, Elena whispered. What is? Whatever this is between us. Her voice trembled. You're my employer. I'm your maid. You're grieving your wife. I'm grieving my son. We're two broken people who shouldn't. Shouldn't what? Vincent stepped closer. Shouldn't feel something real? Shouldn't connect? Shouldn't we heal together? When I look at you, I don't see my maid, he said, his voice low and intense. I see a woman who's stronger than anyone I've ever met, who sacrificed her dignity to save a stranger's child, who faces judgment and hate and still shows up every day with love in her heart. Elena's breath hitched. You don't know me. Then let me. His hand moved from her arm to her face, cupping her cheek gently. Let me know the real Elena, not the rumors, not the tragedy, just you. For a heartbeat, Elena leaned into his touch, her eyes closed. For one perfect moment, she let herself feel safe. Then reality crashed back in. She pulled away, wrapping her arms around herself. I can't. You're vulnerable right now. We both are. And when this is over, when the media moves on and Ethan gets older, you'll realize this was just grief and gratitude mixed together. You don't believe that. I have to, Elena said, her voice breaking. Because if I let myself hope for more, if I let myself care about you, and then you change your mind. She looked at him with raw vulnerability. I can't survive another loss, Vincent. I barely survived the first one. Before Vincent could respond, both their phones buzzed simultaneously. Vincent pulled his out, his face darkening as he read. No, 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 no. What is it? Elena asked, her heart racing. Vincent turned his phone so she could see. The headline made her knees weak. Breaking. Child Protective Services called to Capulet Mansion. Sources say baby may be removed from home. Elena's hand flew to her mouth. Oh my God. Olivia, Vincent said, his voice deadly quiet. She called CPS. She's trying to get Ethan taken away. As if summoned by dark magic, headlights flooded the driveway. A black sedan pulled up, followed by a police car. Vincent and Elena raced downstairs. Through the front windows, they could see two social workers and a police officer approaching the door. What do we do? Elena whispered, panic rising in her chest. Vincent turned to her, his jaw set with determination. We tell the truth, all of it, and we fight. The doorbell rang. The battle for Ethan's future had just begun. The social workers sat in Vincent's living room like judges at a trial. Clara Montgomery, a stern woman in her 50s with gray hair pulled back tight, held a clipboard thick with complaints. Beside her, a younger man named Derek introduced himself as her associate. Vincent sat on one couch, Elena on another, deliberately separated by the social worker's positioning. Between them on the coffee table sat a file stamped "Emergency Investigation." "Mr. Capulet," Clara began, her voice clinical and cold. "We've received multiple reports alleging that your infant son is being cared for by an emotionally unstable woman with a history of child loss. We're here to assess whether Ethan is in a safe environment." "My son is perfectly safe," Vincent said, his voice controlled despite the anger simmering beneath. "Elena saved his life." "So we've heard." Clara's tone suggested she didn't believe it. "Walk me through that night, in detail." Elena recounted everything about Morgan's disappearance, the spoiled formula, Ethan's fever, and her decision to nurse him. With each word, she watched Clara's face harden. "And you didn't think to call 911? Clara asked. "There wasn't time," Elena said. "He was fading. His breathing was shallow. By the time paramedics arrived—" "You took it upon yourself to make a medical decision for someone else's child," Clara interrupted. "A child who recently lost his mother. Do you see how that looks?" "I see how it looks," Elena said quietly. "It looks like I overstepped. But if you had been there, if you'd seen him dying, you would have done the same thing." "Would I?" Clara leaned forward. "Miss Rothman, I understand you lost your own infant 6 weeks before this incident. You were still producing breast milk. Some might say you were looking for a replacement. That's not what happened." Elena's voice cracked. "Isn't it?" Clara opened her file. "You had no prior relationship with this family. You worked here less than a month, yet you developed an immediate, intense bond with Mr. Capulet's son, a bond so strong that the child now refuses to eat from anyone else." "Because I care about him," Elena said, tears threatening. "Or because you've created an unhealthy attachment," Clara countered. "Ms. Rothman, I've read the autopsy report on your son. SIDS is a diagnosis of exclusion, which means—" Vincent stood abruptly. "Straight there." Clara looked up coolly. "Excuse me?" "You're implying something unconscionable," Vincent said, his voice dangerously low. "Elena's son died of natural causes. Tragic, unexplainable, but natural, and you're twisting her grief into something sinister to fit a narrative." "I'm doing my job, Mr. Capulet." "Your job is to protect children," Vincent shot back, "not destroy innocent people." "My job," Clara said, standing to match his height, "is to determine if your son is safe, and right now I have serious concerns." The room fell into tense silence. Derek, the younger social worker, cleared his throat. "Mr. Capulet, can we see Ethan?" Vincent's jaw clenched. "He's sleeping. We need to observe him." "Fine." Vincent led them upstairs, his heart pounding. Elena followed, her hands trembling. In the nursery, Ethan slept peacefully, his small chest rising and falling steadily. The room was immaculate, clean clothes folded neatly, toys organized, the temperature perfect. Clara walked around the room, inspecting everything. She opened drawers, checked the crib for safety hazards, and examined the bottles. "Everything appears adequate," she admitted grudgingly. Then Ethan woke up. His small eyes opened, and immediately his face scrunched up. A cry started to build in his throat. Morgan, who was hovering in the hallway, rushed in. "I'll get him." But the moment Morgan reached for Ethan, his cries exploded into full-blown screams. He arched away from her, his little hands batting at her. "Shh, baby, it's okay." Morgan tried to pick him up, but Ethan's screams grew so violent he started choking. "Give him here," Elena said, stepping forward. "No," Clara blocked her path. "Let's see how he reacts to his father." Vincent reached into the crib, lifting Ethan carefully. "Hey, buddy, Daddy's here. It's okay." Ethan's cries softened slightly, but he continued to fuss, his body tense, his face red. He kept turning his head, searching for something. "Rock him," Clara instructed. Vincent rocked Ethan gently, humming the lullaby Claire used to sing. But Ethan's distress only grew. His breathing became rapid, his cries desperate. 5 minutes passed. 10. Vincent's own stress was making it worse. "Come on, son, please." Ethan's eyes landed on Elena, standing near the door. The baby's cries became pointed, demanding. His little arms reached toward her. "Interesting," Clara murmured, making notes. "He's just used to her," Morgan said quickly. "She's been manipulating him." "Manipulating?" Elena's voice rose. "He's 2 months old." He knows comfort when he feels it, Derek said quietly, watching Ethan with a softer expression than his superior. Clara ignored him. Mr. Capulet, continue trying to soothe him. We need to break this dependency. He's not dependent, he's scared, Elena protested. Ms. Rothman, step outside. What? No. Outside, Clara commanded. Now. Elena looked at Vincent, her eyes pleading. Vincent's face was torn between protecting Elena and proving his son was okay. Finally, he nodded. Elena's heart shattered. She turned and walked out, Ethan's screams following her into the hallway. She pressed her back against the wall outside the nursery, tears streaming down her face as she listened to the baby she loved cry for her. Inside, Ethan's distress reached a critical point. His face turned purple. His breathing became ragged. He's going to make himself sick, Derek warned. Then Mr. Capulet needs to calm him down, Clara said coldly. I'm trying. Vincent's voice was desperate. He was rocking, singing, pacing. Nothing worked. Suddenly, Ethan started coughing violently. His little body convulsed. He's choking. Vincent's panic was instant. Derek rushed forward, checking Ethan's airway. He's hyperventilating. Get Elena. No, Clara said firmly. This is exactly the kind of manufactured crisis that proves my point. My son is choking, and you're worried about proving a point? Vincent's roar echoed through the mansion. Elena! Elena burst through the door, running to Vincent's side. The moment she took Ethan in her arms, his coughing slowed. She held him upright, patting his back gently, murmuring soft words in Spanish, a language Vincent didn't even know she spoke. Within seconds, Ethan's breathing normalized. His cries faded to whimpers, then to soft hiccups, then to silence. He nestled against Elena's shoulder, his tiny fist gripping her shirt, his body finally relaxing. The room was silent except for Ethan's settling breaths. Clara's lips pressed into a thin line. This only proves that she saved him. Again, Derek's voice was firm. Clara, I know what the reports say, but what I just saw. He looked at Elena holding Ethan. That's not manipulation. That's a bond. A real one. A bond that's replaced his father, Clara argued. No, Vincent said quietly, stepping beside Elena. A bond that complements his father. Look at him, Clara. Really look. Ethan had one hand gripping Elena's shirt, but his eyes were on Vincent. When Vincent reached out, Ethan took his father's finger in his other tiny hand, holding both of them. He needs us both, Vincent said softly, just like any child needs a family. Clara stared at the scene of the father and the woman between them. Her expression was unreadable. I'll need to file my report, she said finally. The investigation isn't over, Mr. Capulet. Ms. Rothman will need to undergo a psychological evaluation. You'll both be interviewed separately, and I'll be making unannounced visits. Do what you need to do, Vincent said, but you're not taking my son. Clara packed her clipboard, her jaw tight. We'll be in touch. As the social workers left, Elena sank into the rocking chair, still holding Ethan. Her whole body shook with the aftermath of adrenaline and fear. Vincent knelt in front of her, his hands covering hers. We'll get through this. Will we? Elena's voice was barely a whisper. Vincent, they think I'm dangerous. They think I'm using Ethan to replace my son. What if they're right? They're not. What if I am? Elena looked at him, her eyes full of anguish. What if I'm so broken that I can't see the difference between saving him and needing him? Vincent cupped her face gently. Elena, listen to me. You're not broken. You're human. You loved your son and you love mine. That's not pathology. That's grace. Elena closed her eyes, tears slipping free. I'm so tired, Vincent. Tired of fighting, tired of defending myself, tired of being the villain in everyone else's story. Then let me fight for you, Vincent said. Please, let me be on your side. Before Elena could answer, Vincent's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, his face darkening. What now? Elena asked. Vincent stood, his expression shifting from tender to furious in an instant. Morgan just gave an exclusive interview. It goes live in an hour. Elena's stomach dropped. What kind of interview? Vincent turned his phone so she could see the preview. Nanny speaks out. I fear for baby Ethan's safety. Elena Rothman is obsessed. No, Elena whispered. Vincent, you have to stop it. I can't. Once it's online, it's everywhere. Vincent's hands curled into fists. But I can fight back. How? Vincent's eyes met hers with fierce determination. By telling our story first. The real story. No filters. No PR spin. Just the truth. Elena shook her head frantically. That'll make it worse. It can't get worse than this. Vincent pulled out his phone. I'm going to hold a press conference, right now, and you're going to stand beside me. Vincent, I can't. Yes, you can. He took her hand. Elena, they've controlled the narrative from the beginning. It's time we take it back. 30 minutes later, the mansion's front lawn was packed with reporters. Cameras flashed like lightning as Vincent stepped up to the makeshift podium, Elena standing slightly behind him, her arms wrapped around herself protectively. Thank you for coming, Vincent began, his voice steady despite the chaos. I'm here to address the rumors, the speculation, and the lies that have been told about my son and the woman who saved his life. The crowd erupted with shouted questions. Vincent held up a hand. I'll take questions when I'm finished. First, you need to hear the truth. He recounted everything: Morgan's negligence, Ethan's near death, Elena's sacrifice. With each detail, Elena's face flushed with embarrassment and emotion, but she didn't move. Elena Rothman is not a villain, Vincent said, his voice growing passionate. She's a hero. And more than that, she's family. My son recognizes her as someone safe, someone who loves him unconditionally, and so do I. The last sentence hung in the air like a confession. Elena's eyes widened. Vincent turned to look at her, his expression raw and honest. I'm not grieving my wife by loving Elena, Vincent continued, speaking directly to her now. I'm honoring Claire by making sure our son is surrounded by people who would sacrifice everything for him. That's what Claire would have wanted. That's what Ethan deserves. Tears streamed down Elena's face. Questions? Vincent turned back to the press. A reporter raised her hand. Mr. Capulet, are you saying you have romantic feelings for Ms. Rothman? Vincent didn't hesitate. I'm saying I care about her deeply, and I won't apologize for it. What about the board of directors? Sources say they want her gone. Then they'll have to fire me, Vincent said simply, because Elena stays. Another reporter shouted, Miss Rothman, how do you respond to accusations that you're replacing your dead son? Elena flinched. Vincent moved to shield her, but she stepped forward, her voice shaking but clear. My son's name was Daniel, she said softly, and no one could ever replace him. He was mine. He was perfect, and losing him broke me in ways I'm still learning to survive. The crowd quieted, sensing the rawness in her words. But when I heard Ethan crying, Elena continued, I didn't see a replacement. I saw a child who needed help, and yes, helping him helped me heal. But that doesn't make my love for him less real or less pure. It makes it human. She looked directly at the camera. I didn't choose to lose my son, but I chose to save someone else's, and I'd do it again, every single time. The silence that followed was deafening. Then slowly, one reporter started clapping, then another, then another. Not all of them, but enough. Inside the mansion, watching on TV, Olivia Connor threw her wine glass across the room. He's destroying everything father built for a maid. But outside, something had shifted. The tide was beginning to turn. Comment below. Do you think Vincent just made the biggest mistake of his life, or the bravest decision? And don't forget to subscribe, because it is going to break your heart before it heals it. The press conference should have been a victory. Instead, it became gasoline on an already raging fire. By morning, Vincent's board of directors convened an emergency vote. The headline that greeted him over breakfast made his blood run cold. Capulet Industries Board initiates vote of no confidence. CEO's position in jeopardy. Vincent sat in his office, staring at the email from Robert Shaw. Emergency board meeting, 3 p.m. today. Come prepared to defend your position or step down. Elena found him there an hour later, his head in his hands. Vincent? She entered quietly, carrying Ethan. You missed his feeding. Vincent looked up, his eyes bloodshot. They're going to force me out, Elena. Everything my father built. I'm losing it all. Elena set Ethan in his portable bassinet and knelt beside Vincent's chair. Then let it go. He stared at her. What? If they make you choose between your company and your son's happiness, choose Ethan. Always choose Ethan. You don't understand, Vincent said, his voice breaking. This company employs thousands of people. My father's legacy. We'll survive without you, Elena said firmly. But Ethan won't. He needs you, Vincent. Not your money, not your empire. You. Vincent's throat tightened. And what about you? Elena's breath caught. What about me? If I lose everything, if I'm not a billionaire anymore, if I'm just a single father struggling to make ends meet, his green eyes searched hers desperately. Would you still be here? Elena's hand moved to cup his face. Vincent Capulet, I never came here for your money. I came here because I needed a job. I stayed because of that little boy sleeping beside us, and I'm still here because... Her voice dropped to a whisper. Because somewhere along the way, I started believing in second chances again. Vincent turned his face into her palm, his eyes closing. I don't deserve you. Maybe not, Elena said with a sad smile, but you've got me anyway. For one perfect moment, they stayed like that, two broken people finding comfort in each other's warmth. Then Ethan started crying, not his normal cry. Something was wrong. Elena scooped him up, her hand immediately going to his forehead. He's burning up again. Vincent's heart stopped. No, not again. They rushed to the hospital, sirens wailing as Vincent drove like a man possessed. In the back seat, Elena held Ethan, singing softly through her tears as the baby's cries grew weaker. Stay with me, baby, she whispered. Please stay with me. At the hospital, doctors swarmed. Ethan was admitted immediately, fever of 104, possible infection, cause unknown. Vincent and Elena sat in the waiting room, their hands clasped together, both of them praying to gods they weren't sure were listening anymore. Mr. Capulet? They looked up to see Dr. Sarah Mitchell, the pediatrician who treated Ethan before. How is he? Vincent asked, his voice hoarse. Dr. Mitchell sat down, her expression grave. He has a severe respiratory infection. We've started him on antibiotics, but... She hesitated. His immune system is compromised. Stress can do that to infants. The trauma of the past few weeks, the separation anxiety, the constant upheaval, it's taken a physical toll. Elena's face crumpled. This is my fault. No, Vincent started. It is, Elena said, pulling her hand away. All the fighting, the media circus, the chaos. He's an innocent baby caught in the middle of our mess. Miss Rothman, Dr. Mitchell said gently, you're not to blame, but Ethan needs stability now. Peace. A calm environment. He'll have it, Vincent said firmly. Whatever it takes. But when they were allowed into Ethan's room, the sight nearly broke them both. The tiny baby was hooked up to so many machines, oxygen, IV fluids, monitors beeping softly. His little chest struggled with each breath. Elena stood at the side of the bed, her hand through the bars of the crib, stroking Ethan's tiny fingers. I'm sorry, sweetheart, she whispered. I'm so sorry. Vincent stood behind her, his hand on her shoulder. Together they watched their baby fight. Hours passed. Night fell. Neither of them left. At midnight, Vincent's phone rang. Robert Shaw. Vincent, where are you? The vote is in 3 hours. My son is in the hospital, Vincent said flatly. I'm not coming. If you don't show up, you forfeit your position by default. Then I forfeit. Vincent's voice was dead calm. Goodbye, Robert. He hung up and turned the phone off. Elena looked at him, her eyes wide. Vincent, you can't. I just did. He pulled a chair beside hers, taking her hand. Ethan is more important than any boardroom. You both are. You're going to regret this, Elena whispered. The only thing I regret, Vincent said, his thumb brushing her knuckles, is not realizing sooner what actually matters. They sat in silence, watching Ethan breathe. At 3 a.m., Elena finally broke. I have to leave, Vincent. He looked at her, confused. What? After Ethan recovers, if he recovers, I have to leave. Tears poured down her face. Everyone was right. I'm toxic. Everywhere I go, people suffer. My son died. Now Ethan's sick because of me. You've lost your company because of me. Stop, Vincent said fiercely. None of this is your fault. Isn't it? Elena pulled her hand away. Be honest, Vincent. Your life was complicated before I came, but it was manageable. Now you've lost everything. Your reputation, your company, your family's respect, all because you defended me. Because I love you. The words exploded into the quiet hospital room. Elena froze. Vincent's eyes widened, realizing what he just said. I love you, he repeated, softer now but no less intense. I don't know when it happened. Maybe that first night when you were holding Ethan and crying. Maybe during the press conference when you spoke about Daniel. Maybe it was just now, watching you blame yourself for things that aren't your fault. Vincent, I know it's too soon, Vincent continued, his voice breaking. I know we're both grieving. I know the timing is terrible and we're in a hospital and my son is fighting for his life and I just destroyed my career. Then why are you telling me this? Elena's voice was anguished. Because if I lose you too, I won't survive it. Vincent's tears finally fell. Claire's death nearly destroyed me, but losing both of you would finish the job. Elena stood abruptly, pacing to the window. Outside, the city lights blurred through her tears. "You don't love me," she said quietly. "You love the idea of me. You love that I saved your son. You love that I'm broken like you. But Vincent, when this crisis passes, when Ethan is healthy and the media moves on, you're going to wake up and realize you're in love with a woman you barely know." "Then let me get to know you," Vincent said, standing. "Give me a chance." Elena turned, her face streaked with tears. "I can't. Don't you see, I can't let myself hope for this, because when it falls apart, and it will, I won't survive. I barely survived losing Daniel. I can't lose you and Ethan too." "So you're leaving?" Vincent's voice was raw. "You're just going to walk away?" "I have to," Elena whispered. "For all of us." "You're a coward." The words hit Elena like a slap. She stared at him, shocked. Vincent stepped closer, his eyes blazing. "You talk about surviving loss, about being strong, but you're terrified to take a risk on something real. You'd rather run than fight for this, for us." "That's not fair. Life's not fair." Vincent's voice rose, then dropped when he remembered Ethan. "Life took Claire from me. It took Daniel from you. It's trying to take Ethan from both of us, and I'm tired of letting fear and tragedy dictate my future." He took her hands, holding them firmly. "I'm not asking you to be perfect, Elena. I'm not asking you to have all the answers. I'm asking you to stay, to fight, to believe that just maybe we deserve a second chance at happiness." Elena's defenses crumbled. She collapsed against his chest, sobbing. "I'm so scared." "I know," Vincent whispered, wrapping his arms around her. "I am too, but let's be scared together." They held each other in the dim hospital room, two shattered souls trying to become whole. Behind them, a small monitor beeped, then beeped again. They pulled apart, turning to look at Ethan. His breathing had changed, steadier now, stronger. Dr. Mitchell appeared in the doorway, her face showing cautious hope. "His fever's breaking. The antibiotics are working." Vincent and Elena rushed to the crib. Ethan's color was better, his chest rising and falling more easily. "He's going to be okay?" Elena whispered. "He's fighting," Dr. Mitchell said with a small smile, "just like his parents." Vincent and Elena exchanged a glance, neither correcting the doctor's assumption. As dawn broke over the city, casting golden light through the hospital window, Vincent and Elena sat on either side of Ethan's crib, their hands linked across the bars, watching their baby boy choose to live. But outside the hospital, Olivia Connor sat in her car, making phone calls that would threaten to tear them apart one final time. The darkest hour wasn't over yet. Ethan came home 3 days later. The mansion felt different now, quieter, calmer, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. Vincent had officially resigned from Capulet Industries, and the press had surprisingly been respectful. The narrative had shifted from billionaire scandal to father chooses son over fortune. Elena had agreed to stay, not as a maid anymore, but as Ethan's nanny, official, legal, with a proper contract that Vincent's lawyer drew up. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. For 2 weeks, peace settled over them like snow. Vincent spent his days with Ethan, learning to be a full-time father. Elena taught him how to read Ethan's different cries, how to swaddle him properly, how to sing the lullabies that always worked. They developed routines. Morning feedings together, afternoon walks in the garden, evenings where they'd sit on the couch, Ethan between them, watching him discover his hands with wonder. Slowly, carefully, Vincent and Elena began to heal. One evening, after putting Ethan to bed, they found themselves in the kitchen. Elena was making tea while Vincent cleaned bottles, domestic tasks that felt sacred in their simplicity. "I never thought I'd miss working," Vincent said with a wry smile. "But some days, corporate mergers seem simpler than diaper changes." Elena laughed, a sound Vincent realized he hadn't heard nearly enough. "Welcome to parenthood." "How did you do it?" Vincent asked, his tone shifting to something more serious. "When Daniel was born, how did you handle all of this alone?" Elena's hands stilled on the teapot. "I didn't have a choice. His father left when I told him I was pregnant. My mother had just passed. It was just me and Daniel against the world." Vincent moved closer. "I'm sorry." "Don't be." Elena poured the tea, handing him a cup. "Those 6 weeks with him, they were the best of my life. Hard, exhausting, terrifying, but the best. Because he was mine and I was his, and that was enough." "Do you still think about him?" "Every day." Elena's voice was soft but steady. "I always will. But now I can think about him and smile instead of just crying. That's progress. Vincent reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. You're incredible, you know that? Elena's breath caught at his touch. Vincent, I know, he said quickly. I know we're taking things slow. I'm not trying to rush anything. I just needed you to know. Elena set down her cup, her dark eyes searching his face. What happens now? You've given up everything for Ethan, for me. What's your plan? Vincent smiled. Honestly, I don't have one. For the first time in my adult life, I'm not planning 10 steps ahead. I'm just being present. And that doesn't terrify you? It terrifies me, Vincent admitted. But it also feels right. Like maybe I've been running so hard towards success that I forgot to actually live. Elena stepped closer, her hand resting on his chest. You're a good man, Vincent Capulet. Better than you give yourself credit for. Vincent covered her hand with his. And you're the strongest woman I've ever met, Elena Rothman. The space between them is charged with electricity. Vincent's eyes dropped to her lips. Elena's hand curled in his shirt. We shouldn't, Elena whispered, even as she leaned closer. Probably not, Vincent agreed, his other hand moving to her waist. Ethan needs stability. He has it. The timing is terrible. It's always going to be terrible. Vincent, he kissed her. Soft at first, tentative, asking permission with every movement. Elena froze for a heartbeat, then melted into him, her arms wrapping around his neck. The kiss deepened, weeks of tension and longing pouring into this one moment. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathing hard. I've wanted to do that for weeks, Vincent confessed. Me too, Elena admitted, her forehead resting against his. They stood like that for a long moment, just breathing together. Then Ethan's cry came through the baby monitor. They pulled apart, laughing softly at the timing. Duty calls, Elena said. Our son has impeccable timing, Vincent replied, then caught himself. I mean, you're patient, or, Elena touched his face. Our son! I like the sound of that. Vincent's smile could have lit the entire mansion. Together they went upstairs where Ethan was fussing, not crying, just making it known he wanted company. Vincent lifted him from the crib. Hey, buddy, did you sense Mommy and Daddy were having a moment? The words slipped out naturally. Elena's eyes widened. Sorry, Vincent said quickly. I didn't mean, don't apologize. Elena moved closer, stroking Ethan's cheek. He needs a mother, and I? Her voice caught. I need to be one. Vincent's free arm pulled her close, the three of them standing together in the soft glow of the nursery lamp. We're a family, Vincent said quietly. Maybe not conventional, maybe not what anyone expected, but we're a family. Elena nodded, tears sliding down her cheeks. Yes, we are. But their peace was shattered the next morning. Vincent's lawyer, Patricia, called with urgency in her voice. Vincent, we have a problem. Olivia has filed for emergency custody of Ethan. Vincent's blood ran cold. On what grounds? She's claiming you've suffered a mental breakdown, that you've abandoned your responsibilities, isolated yourself with an unvetted caregiver, and put Ethan at risk. She has affidavits from Morgan, from several board members, even from Clara Montgomery, the social worker. That's insane. Maybe, Patricia said, but she has a court date, next week. Vincent, she's serious about this, and she has resources. Vincent looked at Elena, who'd gone pale listening to his side of the conversation. What do we do? Vincent asked. We fight, Patricia said. But Vincent, you need to understand, custody battles are ugly. They'll dig into everything, every mistake, every vulnerability. Are you prepared for that? Vincent looked at Ethan in his bassinet, then at Elena standing beside him. Yes, he said firmly. We are. After hanging up, Vincent filled Elena in on the details. Her face grew more distressed with each word. She's going to use me against you, Elena said. My history, my son's death, our relationship. Let her try, Vincent said. We have truth on our side. Truth doesn't always win in court. Then we'll make it win. Vincent took her hands. Elena, I need to know right now. Are you with me? All the way? Because this is going to get brutal. Elena thought of Daniel, of the 6 weeks she'd had with him before God took him away. She thought of Ethan, sleeping peacefully, unaware of the battle being waged over his future. She thought of Vincent, who'd given up everything to protect them both. I'm with you, Elena said. All the way. Vincent pulled her into his arms. Then we'll win. We have to. That afternoon, they met with Patricia in the study. She laid out the strategy, character witnesses, expert testimony, documentation of Ethan's health improvements under Elena's care. We need to show the court that this arrangement, unconventional as it is what's best for Ethan, Patricia explained. That means you both need to be beyond reproach. No more public displays, no scandals, nothing Olivia can use against you. What about our relationship? Vincent asked. Are we supposed to pretend? I'm not asking you to lie, Patricia interrupted, but maybe keep the romance private for now. Focus on being co-parents first, partners second. Elena nodded slowly. She's right. Vincent wanted to argue, but he knew Patricia made sense. For the next week, they prepared obsessively. Vincent compiled evidence of Olivia's neglectful parenting of her own adult children. Elena underwent the psychological evaluation Clara had ordered and passed with flying colors. They gathered testimonies from neighbors, from Dr. Mitchell, even from Derek, the younger social worker who'd advocated for them. The night before the hearing, Vincent found Elena in the nursery, singing to Ethan. You should sleep, he said softly. Can't. Elena looked up, her eyes red. What if we lose Vincent? What if they take him? Vincent sat beside her. Then we appeal, and we keep fighting, and we don't stop until he's home. You sound so sure. I have to be, Vincent said. For him, for you, for us. Elena leaned her head on his shoulder. When this is over, if we win. When we win, Vincent corrected. When we win, Elena agreed with a small smile. What happens to us? Vincent turned to face her fully. I want to marry you. Elena's eyes went wide. Vincent, not now, he said quickly. Not until this is over and Ethan is safe and we've had time to breathe. But Elena, I want you to know, I'm not looking for a fling or a convenience. I want a life with you, a real one. Elena's tears fell freely. You barely know me. I know enough, Vincent said. I know you're kind. I know you're brave. I know you love my son like he's your own. That's all I need to know. Ask me again, Elena whispered. When this is over, ask me again, and I'll have an answer. Vincent kissed her forehead. Deal. They put Ethan to bed together, both whispering promises that they'd fight for him, protect him, love him, no matter what. As dawn broke on the day of the custody hearing, Vincent stood in his closet, putting on the suit he wore to his first board meeting, the suit that represented everything he used to be. But when he looked in the mirror, he didn't see a billionaire or a CEO. He saw a father, and that was enough. The courthouse felt like a cathedral of judgment. Marble floors, high ceilings, and the echo of footsteps that sounded like accusations. Vincent walked in with Elena beside him, her hand gripping his so tight her knuckles were white. Behind them, Patricia carried a briefcase full of evidence and hope. Across the aisle, Olivia sat with her legal team, 3 lawyers in sharp suits, all looking hungry for victory. The judge, Honor Catherine Wu, entered. She was a woman in her 60s with silver hair and eyes that had seen every lie, every manipulation, every desperate parent claiming to act in a child's best interest. This is a hearing to determine emergency custody of Ethan Capulet, Judge Wu began. Miss Connor, you filed a petition claiming your brother is unfit. Present your case. Olivia's lead attorney stood, a man named Richard Pierce with a reputation for destroying people on the stand. Your Honor, the facts are clear. Vincent Capulet has suffered a complete psychological breakdown following his wife's death. He abandoned his career, isolated himself with an emotionally unstable woman, and created a chaotic environment detrimental to his infant son. Richard called his first witness, Robert Shaw, the former board chairman. Mr. Shaw, can you describe Mr. Capulet's behavior in the months following his wife's death? Erratic, Robert said, not meeting Vincent's eyes. He missed meetings, made impulsive decisions, and refused counsel. When we expressed concern, he became hostile. Would you say he was capable of making sound judgments regarding his son's welfare? No, I would not. Vincent's jaw clenched. Elena squeezed his hand. Next came Morgan, who painted herself as a concerned caregiver who was pushed out by Elena's obsessive attachment to Ethan. She was always there, Morgan said with practiced tears, hovering. It was unsettling, like she was trying to replace his real mother. And when you tried to intervene, Mr. Capulet chose her over me, over his own son's safety. The lies stung, but Patricia had warned them this would happen. Then came Clara Montgomery, the social worker. Miss Montgomery, in your professional opinion, is the current living arrangement healthy for Ethan Capulet? Clara hesitated, just for a moment. The attachment between Miss Rothman and the infant are unusually intense. Does that concern you? It raises questions, Clara admitted, about boundaries, about Miss Rothman's emotional state, about whether Mr. Capulet is capable of making objective decisions regarding his son's care. By lunch recess, things looked bleak. Vincent and Elena sat in a private conference room, barely touching their food. "They're making me sound like a monster," Elena whispered. "They're lying," Vincent said fiercely. Patricia leaned forward. "This afternoon we will present our case. We have Dr. Mitchell's testimony about Ethan's improved health. We have the psychological evaluation clearing Elena. We have neighbors who will testify to the loving environment you've created." "Will it be enough?" Elena asked. "It has to be," Patricia said. That afternoon, Patricia called Dr. Mitchell first. "Dr. Mitchell, you've been Ethan's pediatrician since birth. Can you describe his health trajectory?" "Initially concerning," Dr. Mitchell said professionally, "but since Miss Rothman began caring for him, his development has been excellent. Weight gain appropriate, no respiratory issues, strong attachment responses, all indicators of a thriving infant. And Mr. Capulet as a father? Devoted, attentive. He's learned quickly and asks the right questions. Many new fathers struggle, especially single fathers, but Vincent has exceeded expectations." Richard cross-examined aggressively, but Dr. Mitchell held firm. Next came Derek, the young social worker. "Mr. Adams, you observed Miss Rothman with Ethan during the crisis. What did you see?" "A woman who understood that baby's needs on an instinctual level," Derek said honestly. "I've worked in child services for 5 years. I know the difference between healthy attachment and something pathological. What Miss Rothman has with Ethan, it's healthy, it's real. Even given her recent loss, especially given her recent loss," Derek said passionately. "She knows how precious and fragile life is. That makes her more careful, not less." Richard tried to shake him, but Derek wouldn't budge. Then Patricia did something unexpected. "Your Honor, I'd like to call Elena Rothman to the stand." Elena's eyes went wide. Vincent gripped her hand. "You've got this," he whispered. Elena walked to the stand on shaking legs. Patricia smiled at her gently. "Ms. Rothman, tell me about the night you met Ethan." Elena took a breath and told the truth, all of it. The crying that wouldn't stop, the spoiled formula, the fever, the impossible decision she had to make. "Why didn't you call 911?" Patricia asked. "There wasn't time," Elena said simply. "His breathing was failing. I made a choice to save him using the resources I had available." "Even knowing it would cost you everything?" Elena's eyes filled with tears. "A child's life is worth everything." Patricia paused, letting that sink in. "Tell me about your son, Daniel." The courtroom went silent. Elena's voice shook. "He was perfect, 6 pounds, 3 ounces. Born at 6:43 in the morning. He had my eyes and his father's stubborn chin." She smiled through tears. "For 6 weeks I had him. I memorized every sound he made, every expression. I sang to him, read to him, promised him the world. And then God called him home," Elena said, her voice breaking. "I found him in his crib. I tried CPR. I called 911. I did everything right, but it wasn't enough. The doctors said it was SIDS. No one's fault, just God's will." "How did you survive that loss?" Elena looked directly at Olivia. "I didn't think I would. For weeks I wanted to die too. But then I got this job, and I heard Ethan cry, and something in me woke up and said, 'You can't save Daniel, but you can save this child.' Are you trying to replace your son with Ethan?" "No," Elena said firmly. "Daniel is irreplaceable, but loving Ethan doesn't dishonor Daniel's memory. It honors it, because Daniel taught me how to love unconditionally, and now I get to give that love to another child who needs it." There wasn't a dry eye in the courtroom. Richard stood for cross-examination, but even he seemed hesitant. "Miss Rothman, isn't it true that you've developed romantic feelings for Mr. Capulet?" Elena didn't flinch. "Yes." Gasps rippled through the courtroom. "So you're not just the nanny, you're his girlfriend?" "I'm a woman who cares deeply for a man who's shown me what it means to choose love over fear," Elena said steadily. "But more importantly, I'm someone who loves his son. Those feelings aren't mutually exclusive, Mr. Pierce. They're complementary." "Convenient timing, though, wouldn't you say? Wealthy widower, vulnerable baby." "Objection," Patricia stood. "Counsel is testifying." "Sustained," Judge Wu said sharply, but her eyes were on Elena with something like respect. Richard tried a few more angles, but Elena held steady, her voice never wavering. Finally, Patricia called Vincent to the stand. Mr. Capulet, you gave up $1 billion empire. Why? Because my son is worth more than money, Vincent said simply. My wife died giving him life. The least I could do was actually live for him. Are you in love with Elena Rothman? Vincent didn't hesitate. Yes, completely. Is that why you've kept her around? No, I kept her around because she saved my son's life when I failed him. I fell in love with her because of who she is. Her strength, her compassion, her willingness to sacrifice everything for a child who wasn't even hers. What kind of mother do you think she'll be to Ethan? Vincent's voice grew thick with emotion. The best kind. The kind who knows how precious and fragile life is. The kind who will never take a single moment for granted. The kind who will love him fiercely because she understands what it means to lose that love. Patricia sat down. Richard approached for cross-examination, his expression calculating. Mr. Capulet, you claim to be thinking clearly. Yet you've destroyed your career, defied your family, and started a relationship with your employee, all within months of your wife's death. Does that sound like sound judgment to you? No, Vincent admitted without shame. It sounds like survival. My marriage to Claire was beautiful, but it's over. She's gone. And I can either spend the rest of my life mourning what I lost, or I can build something new with what I've found. I choose to build. Even if it costs you everything? Vincent looked directly at Elena, his green eyes blazing with certainty. Then he looked at the empty seat where Ethan would have been if he were old enough to attend. I've already lost everything once, Vincent said quietly. My wife, my career, my reputation, none of it matters, but I gained something more valuable than all of it combined, a family. Real, messy, imperfect, but mine. And I'm not giving that up. Not for you, not for the board, not for anyone. Richard had no response. He returned to his seat, defeated. Finally, Olivia took the stand, her designer suit immaculate, her expression too confident. Patricia approached her like a predator who spotted weakness. Miss Connor, you claim to want what's best for your nephew. How many times have you visited him in the past 3 months? Olivia's jaw tightened. I've been busy with work. Once, Patricia said, holding up a visitor log. You visited once, for exactly 23 minutes, and spent most of that time arguing with your brother about his poor decisions. Does that sound like someone deeply concerned for a child's welfare? I was giving Vincent space to grieve. Or you didn't care until it became politically useful? Patricia pulled out another document, holding it up for the court to see. You're currently running for state senate, correct? And your platform is family values and protecting children? Olivia's face flushed red. My political career has nothing to do with this case. Doesn't it? Patricia's voice grew sharp. A custody battle makes excellent press. The concerned aunt saves her innocent nephew from his irresponsible, grief-stricken brother and the dangerous woman he's involved with. A very compelling narrative for voters, wouldn't you say? That's a lie. Olivia's composure cracked. I love my nephew. Do you? Patricia stepped closer. Then tell the court, what's Ethan's favorite lullaby? What time does he usually wake up? What makes him laugh? What soothes him when he cries? Olivia's mouth opened and closed. Silence. You don't know, do you? Patricia said softly. Because you've never been there. Not when he was sick. Not when he needed love. Not when he was fighting for his life. You only showed up when cameras were rolling. Objection, Richard jumped up. Badgering the witness. Withdrawn, Patricia said with a satisfied smile. No further questions. The judge called a recess to review the evidence. For 2 agonizing hours, Vincent, Elena, and Patricia sat in the hallway, barely breathing. Vincent held Elena's hand so tight her fingers went numb, but she didn't complain. They needed each other's strength. Whatever happens, Vincent whispered, we don't give up. We appeal. We fight. We never stop. Elena nodded, tears streaming silently down her face. Never. Finally, they were called back in. Judge Wu sat at her bench, her expression unreadable. The courtroom fell into suffocating silence. I've reviewed all testimony and evidence, she began, her voice measured and firm. This is an unusual case, unconventional circumstances, unorthodox solutions. But my job is not to judge what's normal, it's to determine what's best for Ethan Capulet. Vincent gripped Elena's hand so tight it hurt, but neither of them moved. Miss Connor, your concerns are noted, but they're not supported by evidence. Judge Wu's gaze was sharp. Every medical professional who testified says Ethan is thriving. Every witness who's actually spent time in that home describes a loving, stable, nurturing environment. Your petition appears to be motivated more by political ambition than genuine concern for your nephew's welfare. Olivia's face went white. Behind her, one of her lawyers put his head in his hands. Mr. Capulet, Miss Rothman, your relationship is unconventional, perhaps ill-advised by some traditional standards. But I see two people who've suffered tremendous loss and found healing in caring for a child who desperately needed them both. The judge paused, her expression softening as she looked directly at Elena. Ms. Rothman, I lost a child myself, 20 years ago. SIDS, just like your Daniel. Judge Wu's voice cracked slightly. I understand the hole it leaves, the way it never fully heals, the guilt that haunts you. But I also understand that loving another child doesn't betray the one you lost. It honors them. It says their life had meaning, that they taught you how to love so deeply that you have love left to give. Elena covered her mouth with her free hand, sobbing silently. Judge Wu turned back to her paperwork, her voice growing stronger. Miss Connor's petition for emergency custody is denied. Full custody of Ethan Capulet remains with his father, Vincent Capulet. Vincent's head dropped forward, his shoulders shaking with relief. Elena collapsed against him, both of them crying. However, the judge continued, and they both froze. I'm ordering continued supervision by Child Protective Services for 6 months. Not because I doubt your capabilities, Mr. Capulet, or yours, Miss Rothman, but because that child deserves every safeguard we can provide. Consider it a safety net, not a punishment. We understand, Your Honor, Patricia said quickly, her own eyes glistening. Thank you. Judge Wu looked at Vincent and Elena one more time, a small smile touching her normally stern face. And one more thing, she said, her voice taking on an almost grandmotherly tone. Mr. Capulet, Miss Rothman, if you two are going to build a family together, do it right. Get married. Make it official. Give that boy the stability of knowing his parents are committed, not just to him, but to each other. Don't let fear or proper timing rob you of the happiness you've earned. Vincent and Elena stared at each other in shock, hope blooming on their tear-stained faces. That's not an order, of course, the judge clarified with a knowing look. Just advice from someone who's seen too many good people lose each other because they waited too long for the right moment. Life is short. Love is precious. Don't waste either. She banged her gavel firmly. This court is adjourned. Case dismissed. The courtroom erupted. Olivia stormed out, her heels clicking furiously against the marble floor, her lawyers scrambling behind her. Reporters shouted questions, cameras flashed like lightning, but Vincent and Elena heard none of it. He pulled her into his arms, holding her so tight she could barely breathe. Both of them shook with sobs of relief, joy, and overwhelming gratitude. We won, Elena whispered against his chest, her voice muffled and broken. Vincent, we actually won. We won, Vincent confirmed, pulling back just enough to cup her face in his hands. His thumbs wiped away her tears even as his own fell freely. You won. You fought for us when everyone said you shouldn't. You stood your ground. God, Elena, you're incredible. He kissed her then, right there in the courtroom in front of lawyers and reporters and strangers. Kissed her like she was air and he was drowning. Kissed her like she was home. Patricia cleared her throat, grinning despite the tears on her own cheeks. Congratulations, you two. Now let's get out of here before the press eats you alive. You've had enough drama for one lifetime. They escaped through a side exit, racing to the car where Ethan waited with a trusted babysitter. A kind older woman named Mrs. Chen watched him during the hearing. The moment Elena opened the car door, Ethan's face lit up. His little arms reached for her immediately, his mouth forming shapes that almost sounded like Mama. Hi, sweet boy, Elena murmured, lifting him from his car seat and covering his tiny face with kisses. We're here. Mama and Daddy are here, and we're never leaving you again. Never. Ethan cooed happily, his small hand gripping her hair, his other hand reaching for Vincent. Vincent wrapped his arms around both of them, completing their circle. Let's go home, he said softly. Home, Elena repeated, the word feeling sacred on her tongue. That evening, after putting Ethan to bed, singing him every lullaby they knew, checking on him 3 times, watching him sleep with overwhelming gratitude, Vincent led Elena to the garden. She gasped when she saw it. The entire space was transformed. Fairy lights hung from every tree and bush, twinkling like fallen stars. Candles in glass holders lined the stone pathways, their flames dancing in the gentle breeze. Soft music played from hidden speakers, an instrumental version of the song that had played at Vincent and Claire's wedding, reimagined with hope instead of sorrow. "Vincent, what is this?" Elena asked, her voice trembling. "The judge gave us advice," Vincent said, taking her hand and leading her to the center of the garden. "And I've never been one to ignore wise counsel." He turned to face her, and Elena's breath caught when she saw the look in his eyes, pure, unguarded love. "Elena, I was going to wait," Vincent said, his voice shaking slightly. "Plan something elaborate, wait for the right moment. But then I realized the judge was right. We've already wasted too much time being afraid." He dropped to one knee. Elena's hands flew to her mouth, tears already spilling over. "Vincent." "Elena Rothman," he began, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. "I know this is fast. I know we've only known each other for a few months. I know the world will say it's too soon, too crazy, too impulsive. I know people will judge us." He opened the box, revealing a simple but elegant ring, a single diamond on a white gold band with tiny sapphires on either side representing both Daniel and Claire. "But I also know that life is short," Vincent continued, his voice breaking. "That tomorrow isn't promised, that the woman I love could be taken from me at any moment, just like Claire was, and I refuse to waste another second not making you mine." Elena was crying so hard she could barely see him through her tears. "You saved my son when I failed him," Vincent said, his own tears falling freely now. "You stood beside me when the entire world turned against us. You loved me when I was broken and lost and had nothing to offer except grief and chaos. Elena, you are the most courageous, compassionate, beautiful person I've ever known. You make me want to be better. You make me believe in second chances. You make me understand that love after loss isn't a betrayal, it's a triumph." His voice cracked completely. "I want to spend the rest of my life proving that you made the right choice when you chose to stay, when you chose us, when you choose love over fear." He took a shaking breath. "Elena Rothman, will you marry me? Will you be Ethan's mother, legally, officially, forever? Will you let me spend every day of our lives making sure you know how cherished you are? Will you build this crazy, imperfect, beautiful life with me?" For a long moment, Elena couldn't speak. She stared at Vincent, this man who lost everything and gained the world. This man who chose her when logic said he shouldn't. This man who fought for her, believed in her, loved her through the darkness. Then she dropped to her knees in front of him, taking his face in her trembling hands. "Yes," she whispered, her voice breaking with emotion. "Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes." Vincent let out a sound between a laugh and a sob. With shaking hands, he slipped the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly, like it had been waiting for her all along. Then he kissed her, soft at first, reverent like she was something sacred. Then deeper, pouring months of longing and love and promises into that single kiss. They held each other in the garden, kneeling on the soft grass, crying and laughing and kissing, two broken people becoming whole. "I love you," Vincent whispered against her lips. "God, Elena, I love you so much." "I love you too," Elena said, her forehead pressed against his. "I never thought I'd get to say that again. I never thought I'd feel this again. Thank you for showing me that hearts can heal, that love can bloom even in grief." They stayed like that for a long time, holding each other under the fairy lights while the world spun on without them. From the upstairs window, the baby monitor picked up a soft coo, Ethan stirring in his sleep, as if he knew something beautiful had just happened and wanted to be part of it, even in dreams. Vincent and Elena looked at each other and laughed, the sound pure and free. "Our son has impeccable timing," Vincent said, helping Elena to her feet. "Our son," Elena repeated, and the words felt like coming home. I'll never get tired of hearing that. They walked inside hand in hand, checked on Ethan one more time, kissing his sleeping face, that whispering promises of forever, then returned to the living room where they stayed up until dawn, planning their future. Not a big wedding, they decided, something small and meaningful. Just the people who stood by them, just the witnesses to their love story. And it will happen soon. Because the judge was right, they waited long enough. What did you feel when the judge made her ruling? Drop victory in the comments if this moment gave you chills. And don't leave yet. The final part is coming, and you need to see where Elena and Vincent's story goes. Hit subscribe so you don't miss it. 3 months later, the garden had never looked more beautiful. White roses climbed the trellises, their petals soft and perfect in the late afternoon sun. Chairs draped in ivory fabric formed a small semicircle around a simple wooden arch wrapped in greenery and flowers. Music drifted through the air, gentle, hopeful, full of promise. Elena stood in the bedroom she now shared with Vincent, staring at herself in the mirror. Her dress was simple but elegant, off-white lace with long sleeves and a flowing skirt. Nothing like the elaborate gown she once imagined for a wedding that seemed like a lifetime ago. This dress was better. It was real. In her hand, she held a small bouquet of white roses and baby's breath. Tucked carefully into the ribbon that bound them was a tiny photo in a silver frame. Daniel, 6 weeks old, smiling at the camera. "I wish you could be here, sweet boy," Elena whispered, her finger tracing the frame. "But I know you are. I feel you, and I hope I'm making you proud." A soft knock interrupted her moment. Dr. Mitchell entered, wearing a lovely purple dress and a warm smile. "You look absolutely beautiful, Elena." "Thank you for being here," Elena said, her voice thick. "For everything." "Wouldn't miss it," Dr. Mitchell said, stepping forward to adjust Elena's veil. "You know, I've seen a lot of families in my career, but what you and Vincent have built, what the three of you are, that's special. That's love in its purest form." Elena's eyes filled with tears. "I keep waiting for someone to tell me I don't deserve this, that I'm not allowed to be this happy after losing Daniel." Dr. Mitchell took Elena's hands firmly. "Listen to me. Grief and joy can coexist. You can miss Daniel with every breath and still celebrate this new chapter. That's not betrayal, that's survival. That's resilience. That's being beautifully, perfectly human." Elena nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. "Now come on," Dr. Mitchell said with a grin. "Your husband-to-be is about to wear a hole in the grass from pacing, and your son is getting fussy." Elena laughed through her tears. "Our son. God, I love saying that." Downstairs, Vincent stood near the arch, pulling at his tie for the 100th time. He wore a simple charcoal gray suit, no jacket, just vest and shirt sleeves rolled to his elbows. Casual, real, perfect. Patricia stood beside him, serving as his best woman. "You're going to be fine," she said, amused. "You've faced boardrooms full of hostile investors. You can handle marrying the woman you love." "That's different," Vincent said, running his hand through his hair. "Those meetings didn't matter. This is everything." Derek approached, carrying a squirming Ethan in a tiny suit. "Someone wants his daddy," Derek said with a laugh. Vincent took Ethan gratefully, pressing a kiss to his son's forehead. "Hey, buddy, are you ready to see Mama become Mama officially?" Ethan gurgled happily, his little fist grabbing Vincent's collar. "He knows," Derek said softly. "Somehow kids always know when something important is happening." The music changed, a soft piano melody that made Vincent's breath catch. "That's the cue," Patricia said, straightening his tie one last time. "You've got this." Vincent handed Ethan to Mrs. Chen, who agreed to hold him during the ceremony, then took his position under the arch. The small gathering of guests stood, maybe 20 people total. Dr. Mitchell and her family, Derek and his fiancée, Patricia, a few neighbors who testified on their behalf, Mrs. Chen and her husband. A couple of Vincent's old friends stuck by him through everything. And then Elena appeared. Vincent's breath stopped. She walked slowly down the garden path. No father to give her away because she lost hers years ago. No bridesmaids because this wasn't about pageantry. Just Elena, walking toward her future, carrying Daniel's photo, wearing a smile that held both sorrow and joy. Vincent's eyes filled with tears. He didn't bother trying to hide them. When Elena reached the arch, she handed her bouquet to Dr. Mitchell and took Vincent's hands. They were both shaking. The officiant, a kind older man who knew both grief and love in his long life, smiled at them warmly. "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to witness the union of Vincent and Elena, two souls who have walked through fire and emerged stronger. Two hearts that were broken and chose to heal together. Two people who prove that love after loss is not only possible, but powerful." He looked at Vincent. "Vincent, do you take Elena to be your lawfully wedded wife?" To love her in joy and in sorrow, in health and in sickness, in wealth and in poverty, for all the days of your life. Vincent's voice was steady despite his tears. I do. God, yes, I do. The officiant turned to Elena. Elena, do you take Vincent to be your lawfully wedded husband, to love him in joy and in sorrow, in health and in sickness, in wealth and in poverty, for all the days of your life? Elena's voice broke with emotion. I do. With all my heart, I do. The couple has written their own vows, the officiant announced. Vincent squeezed Elena's hands gently, then began, his voice thick with feeling. Elena, when I met you, I was drowning. I lost my wife, nearly lost my son, and lost myself in the process. You walked into my life on what felt like the darkest night of my existence, and you brought the dawn with you. Tears streamed down his face. You didn't just save Ethan, you saved me. You showed me that broken people can still love fiercely, that endings can become beginnings, that second chances are real if you're brave enough to reach for them. His voice cracked. I promise to love you for exactly who you are, a woman with a past that shaped you, scars that made you stronger, and a heart big enough to love a child who wasn't yours, and a man who forgot how to believe in happiness. I promise to honor Daniel by being the father Ethan needs. I promise to choose you every single day for the rest of our lives. Elena was sobbing now, but smiling through her tears. She took a shaking breath and began her vows. Vincent, 6 months ago, I didn't want to live anymore. I lost my son, lost my purpose, lost my hope. I was going through motions, existing but not living. And then I heard Ethan cry. Her voice trembled. At that moment, something in me woke up. And when you walked into that nursery and saw me feeding him, instead of throwing me out like any rational person would have, you saw me. Really saw me. Not as a threat or a problem, but as someone trying desperately to do the right thing. Tears flowed freely. You gave me a second chance at motherhood when I didn't think I deserved one. You fought for me when the world said you shouldn't. You loved me when I was too broken to love myself. You showed me that my story wasn't over, it was just beginning a new chapter. Her voice grew stronger. I promise to love Ethan like he's my own, because he is. I promise to honor Claire's memory by being the mother she would want for her son. I promise to choose joy over fear, hope over grief, love over loss. And I promise to spend every day showing you that broken people can build the most beautiful things. There wasn't a dry eye in the garden. The officiant's own voice was thick as he continued. The rings, please? Derek stepped forward with a small pillow carrying 2 simple bands, both engraved with the same words, love after loss. Vincent slipped the ring onto Elena's finger, his hand trembling. With this ring, I'm wed. Elena slipped the ring onto Vincent's finger, her smile radiant through her tears. With this ring, I'm wed. By the power vested in me, the officiant said, his voice full of warmth, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Vincent, you may kiss your bride. Vincent didn't need to be told twice. He pulled Elena into his arms and kissed her, tender and passionate, full of promises kept and promises yet to come. She kissed him back with everything she had, 6 months of fear and fighting and falling in love pouring into that perfect moment. Their guests erupted in cheers and applause. When they finally pulled apart, both breathless and beaming, the officiant announced with joy, Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Mr. and Mrs. Capulet. More cheers, more applause. Ethan, sitting in Mrs. Chen's lap, clapped his tiny hands together and giggled, making everyone laugh. Vincent and Elena walked back down the aisle hand in hand, married, whole, and surrounded by people who loved them. The reception was perfect in its simplicity. Tables under string lights, homemade food, laughter and dancing and joy. No elaborate speeches or formal toasts, just people who cared about each other celebrating love. Elena danced with Vincent while Ethan dozed in his portable crib nearby, one hand clutching his baby blanket, completely at peace. This is perfect, Elena whispered against Vincent's chest as they swayed to the music. This is just the beginning, Vincent replied, pressing a kiss to her hair. 18 months later, the kitchen of the Capulet home, modest but warm, filled with laughter and light, smelled like pancakes and coffee. Elena stood at the stove, her pregnant belly prominent at 7 months. She hummed softly, flipping pancakes while keeping one eye on the chaos behind her. Ethan, now almost 3 years old, sat at the kitchen table in his booster seat, chattering away in his adorable toddler voice. Mama, Mama, cake's ready. Elena's heart still swelled every single time he called her that. Almost, my love. Be patient. Patient, Ethan repeated carefully, making Elena smile. Vincent entered, freshly showered, laptop under his arm. After the custody battle, he started a nonprofit organization called Second Chances, helping single parents, families in crisis, and parents who lost children find support, resources, and hope. It paid a fraction of what his CEO position had, but it meant everything. Morning, Mrs. Capulet, Vincent said, wrapping his arms around Elena from behind, his hands resting gently on her belly. Morning, Mr. Capulet, Elena said, leaning back into his warmth. How's our little girl today? Active, Elena laughed. I think she's training to be a soccer player. She's been kicking all morning. Takes after her mama, Vincent said warmly, strong and determined. They'd found out 3 months ago, a baby girl, due in the spring. They'd named her before she was even born, Claire Daniela Capulet. Claire for the woman who'd given Ethan life. Daniela for the little boy who'd taught Elena how to love beyond loss. It felt perfect, like both of them would live on through this new life. After breakfast, Vincent took Ethan to the park while Elena had her weekly video call with the support group she founded, a safe space for mothers who lost children, where they could grieve openly and support each other without judgment. You're glowing, one of the mothers said during the call, smiling at Elena through the screen. I'm happy, Elena admitted, her hand unconsciously resting on her belly. Finally, genuinely, completely happy, and I don't feel guilty about it anymore. That's growth, another mother said, wiping tears from her eyes. That's healing. Daniel would want this for you. He would, Elena agreed, touching the small locket around her neck that held his photo. He absolutely would, and I like to think he's watching over his little sister, getting her ready to meet us. After the call ended, Elena sat for a moment in the quiet of her home, marveling at how much had changed. A year and a half ago, she was homeless, grief-stricken, and certain her life was over. Now she was married to an incredible man, mother to a beautiful toddler, and pregnant with a daughter who was already so loved. The doorbell rang, interrupting her thoughts. Dr. Mitchell stood on the porch, smiling warmly. Surprise! I brought company. Behind her stood Derek and his now wife Sarah, along with Patricia carrying a gift bag. We couldn't stay away, Patricia said with a grin. Besides, someone told me there would be homemade cookies. Elena laughed, ushering them all inside. You came at the perfect time. Vincent just took Ethan to the park. They settled in the living room, and for the next hour, Elena was surrounded by the people who fought for her, believed in her, and helped her build this life. How's the nonprofit doing? Derek asked, genuinely interested. Growing faster than we expected, Elena said proudly. We've helped over 200 families in the past year. Vincent works around the clock, but he loves it, says it's the most meaningful work he's ever done. And you? Dr. Mitchell asked gently, how are you really doing? Pregnancy after loss can be complicated emotionally. Elena's hand went to her belly, her expression softening. Some days are hard. I wake up terrified something will go wrong. But Vincent reminds me that fear is normal and that Claire Daniela is healthy and strong. The doctors say everything looks perfect. You're going to be an amazing mother to her, Sarah said warmly, just like you are to Ethan. Speaking of Ethan, Patricia said, pulling out her phone, have you seen the news? Elena's stomach dropped. What news? Patricia showed her the screen. It was a feature article. Where are they now? The Capulet family 1 year after the custody battle that shocked the nation. Elena read quickly, her eyes widening. The article was positive. It talked about Vincent's nonprofit, Elena's support group, Ethan's thriving development. It showed photos of them at a charity event looking happy and whole. The journalist who wrote this reached out to me, Patricia explained. She wanted to know if the fairy tale ending was real or just for show. I told her to judge for herself and sent her documentation of everything you two have accomplished. Elena's eyes filled with tears. People actually believe in us now? More than that, Derek said. You've become a symbol, proof that unconventional families can work, that love after loss is real, that second chance exists. The front door burst open and Ethan's laughter filled the house. Mama! Mama! We saw ducks! Ethan ran into the living room, his face flushed with excitement. Elena scooped him up despite her belly, kissing his rosy cheeks. You saw ducks? Tell me everything. Vincent appeared in the doorway, slightly out of breath, carrying Ethan's jacket and a bag of breadcrumbs. His face lit up when he saw their guests. Well, this is a surprise, he said warmly, shaking hands and accepting hugs. They spent the afternoon together, eating, laughing, and sharing stories. Ethan entertained everyone with his chatter, and when Elena's belly moved visibly, everyone gathered around to feel the baby kick. She's strong, Derek said, his hand on Elena's stomach, just like her parents. As the sun began to set, their guests prepared to leave. At the door, Dr. Mitchell pulled Elena into a tight hug. I'm so proud of you, she whispered. From that first night in the hospital when I didn't know if you'd make it, to this, a thriving family, a beautiful marriage, a baby on the way. You did this, Elena. You chose to heal, and you did. Elena couldn't speak past the lump in her throat, so she just held Dr. Mitchell tighter. After everyone left, Vincent, Elena, and Ethan settled on the couch for their nightly routine. Ethan snuggled between them, his small hand resting on Elena's belly. 2 months later, the hospital room was nothing like the one they were in with Ethan 18 months ago. This time there was no fear, no emergency, no crisis, just joy. Elena lay in the bed, exhausted but radiant, holding a tiny bundle wrapped in a pink blanket. Claire Daniela Capulet had arrived at dawn, 6 pounds and 4 ounces of perfect, healthy baby girl. Vincent sat beside the bed, one arm around Elena, his other hand gently stroking Claire's impossibly small fingers. She's perfect, he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. Elena, she's absolutely perfect. She has your nose, Elena said softly, studying their daughter's sleeping face. And look, Claire's eyes, same shape. And your fierce spirit, I bet, Vincent said with a smile. She came out yelling, ready to take on the world. A soft knock interrupted them. A nurse poked her head in. You have a very excited visitor. Can he come in? Please, Elena said eagerly. The door opened wider, and Mrs. Chen entered, holding Ethan's hand. The toddler's eyes went wide when he saw his parents. Mama! Daddy! He ran forward and Vincent caught him, lifting him carefully onto the bed. Ethan reached out one finger, gently touching Claire's hand. The baby's tiny fingers curled around his reflexively, and Ethan gasped. She loves you already, Elena said, tears streaming down her face. She knows you're her big brother. Ethan beamed with pride. I protect her, keep her safe. Vincent and Elena exchanged a look over their children's heads, a look that held everything they'd survived, everything they'd built, everything they'd become. I know you will, son, Vincent said, his voice breaking. You're going to be the best big brother in the world. Mrs. Chen wiped tears from her own eyes. I'll give you family time, she said, backing toward the door. Congratulations, you've created something beautiful. After she left, the 4 of them stayed like that. Vincent, Elena, Ethan, and Claire. A family forged in fire and sealed with love. Vincent pulled out his phone and snapped a photo. Elena holding Claire, Ethan nestled beside them, all of them bathed in the soft morning light streaming through the window. A portrait of a family that shouldn't have worked according to society's rules, but worked perfectly according to love's. That photo would eventually sit on their mantle, next to one of Claire, the first Claire, holding newborn Ethan, and one of Elena holding baby Daniel. 3 generations, 3 stories, all connected by threads of love that death couldn't break and judgment couldn't destroy. Vincent looked at his family, 2 children who came to him in different ways, a wife who was a stranger and became his soulmate, a life that had been shattered and rebuilt into something stronger. We made it, he said softly. We did, Elena agreed. We really did. And in that hospital room surrounded by love and hope and second chances, the Capulet family began their next chapter. Not perfect, not without struggles ahead, but together. Always together. Dear Unbroken Truths family, if you've made it this far, thank you. Thank you for believing in Elena and Vincent's story. Thank you for understanding that love after loss is possible, that broken people can build beautiful things, that families come in all forms, and the strongest ones are often the ones that had to fight the hardest to exist. This story is for everyone who has lost someone they love, has been judged for choosing an unconventional path, and has wondered if happiness is possible after tragedy. You need to believe in second chances. Your story isn't over. Your best chapter might still be ahead. Tell us in the comments. What moment made you cry the most? Do you believe in second chances after loss? What does family mean to you? Have you experienced a second chance? Share your story. Before you go, like this video if this story touched your heart. Subscribe to Unbroken Truths for more stories of hope, healing, and redemption. Comment second chances if you believe broken people can build beautiful things. Share this with someone who needs to hear that their story isn't over. Remember, Elena lost everything and found more than she ever dreamed. Vincent gave up his empire and gained a kingdom. Their love wasn't perfect, it was real. And real love, the kind forged in fire and tested by time, is the most powerful force in the world. Your turn. What's your second chance story? Drop it in the comments. You never know who needs to hear it. Until next time, keep believing, keep fighting, keep loving, because the truth may be broken, but it's never destroyed. This is Unbroken Truths, where every ending is just a beginning waiting to bloom.